these aren't storm clouds. This is the fucking shit that they burn off, the fucking shit they burn off in East Palestine. This is not fucking storm clouds.
You know, we rely on the experts, what they tell us. We continue to monitor the air. We continue to monitor the water. They continue to tell us, the EPA continues to tell us that it is in fact safe. Where we've seen some traces is in the water, which has gone into the Ohio River. Again, the experts tell us that it is such a small quantity that we really should not worry about it.
You good at anything? Are you kidding me?
It is just boiling out. Look at this.
Alright guys, let's start getting into some of this more technical stuff from this hearing. Let's focus on fire chief's interview first. This was on February 16th, so okay. Let's see here. You initially received the call approximately before 2100 hours on Friday the 3rd. He was en route to go on vacation. Hope Norfolk gave you another vacation because they owe you one. Interstate 80. Let's see here. Immediately I got communication from byline officers on scene advising me what we had, which was a large train derailment with a lot of fire and potential exposure into several businesses in town. I turned around at that point and started heading back. Maintained communication with my people on the ground. They had started calling additional resources trying to find out from Norfolk Southern what was exactly on the train. Trying to get the probably consist, or I call it a manifest, to get the list of materials for the cars in question. I believe around 30 minutes into the incident, a representative from Norfolk Southern did arrive on the scene and meet with the deputy chief. I was on the phone with him. Well, that right there, I don't expect him to know exactly. It was probably more like 45 minutes. Continue the timeline we were given, because dispatch called Norfolk Southern at 9:04 for the manifest, and Norfolk Southern said, "Well, sorry, we're going to have to call you back, okay?" Well, and they called again at 9:30 about considering the evac. They said they were unclear if they got calls back at this hearing. Let's see here. Columbia Emergency Management actually finally got that manifest emailed to him at 9:56. Deputy Chief Fire Department from 9:45 to 10. So it was probably about 45 minutes after, the train derailment. We tried to ascertain exactly what was on the train. The initial report to me was that there was vinyl chlorine on the train. I confirmed that with him twice, and he reiterated that he has misspoken. It was vinyl chloride. We got into our ERGs to see what the evacuation decision should be for the conditions we were met with. I confirmed using the Wiser app, we decided we needed a 1 mile evacuation zone as recommended by the Department of Transportation ERG guide. My officer, at that point, Deputy Chief Gorby, was continuing to have resources come in and apply water to the fire, trying to protect the exposure and cool it down. They did establish a command post perceived initially at the 1 mile mark. Let's see here. He arrived on scene at 2 a.m., so that would explain him getting the manifest at 2:15. So, he really wasn't on scene till 2. Somewhere in that area. I did maintain communication with them throughout by cell phone and updates with different progress what was going on. When I got back into town, I did come past the scene to kind of get an eyeball what was going on for myself before going up. I did face briefing with my officers, found out what their game plan was still applying water. Then we got in a conversation where it was decided that we needed to have unmanned master streams down there. We started the process of setting those back up and pulling people back. Then it was changed to where there was some confusion through the Norfolk folks. What a tongue twister. Norfolk folks. Of whether we needed to do that or not. So I had to stop what we were doing at the command post and get clarification on that through them. It was decided that we did not. It was decided we didn't decide. Master Stream's running at that point, so we ceased operation, pulled everybody back, and started communicating through the command post. There were several drone flights going up trying to identify exactly what cars were involved and find out which products were involved. Let's see here. The drone footage was available, and I believe it was determined as far as I was able to determine which cars, as far as hazardous cars, which ones were burning freely. That was coordinated. We found that there were several vinyl chloride cars that were burning along with some other products. The paper copy of the consist that I was looking at was taken by somebody. I did not have access to that no longer. I did find a representative from Norfolk and insist that they email me a copy. So he had it, and they did in a fairly timely fashion, in my opinion. I can't tell you exactly what the time frame was, but I felt it was a timely fashion. Let's see here. We started developing a plan in conjunction with NTSB, Norfolk Southern, EPA, and Pennsylvania assets that were here as well. We did decide that because of getting a better detail of the map, that we were just inside that evacuation zone, so we opted to move the command post outside to ensure that we were in safety as well. Let's see here. But my deputy chief did a great job picking an initial one and tried to do the best he possibly could. We had started getting notified throughout that the temperature of one of the vinyl chloride cars, as they were able to get down there and get temperature readings, the one had started to fluctuate, and was explained to me that the safety system relief valve on it was not functioning properly. They believed it was gummed up, and they believed that the product was going through polymerization, and that they were definitely concerned about that particular car. They had mentioned at that point whenever steps of mitigation for that, and they said they felt we were getting to the point of possibly having to do a vent and burn on that particular one. There was some confusion back and forth whether it was going to be just one car, 2 cars, or all 5 cars, and that confusion carried on for some time throughout the incident. We did monitor the temperature, or not we, I should say, they monitored the temperature throughout, and got to the point that they thought it was necessary, based on the findings, that we do a vent and burn. I kind of got blindsided, which is possibly the biggest thing that bothers me out of all of this. I was in a meeting with my team at our command center in the library of the school. Had got pulled out with the governor, DeWine, to go down to Norfolk Southern Center of Command Post, their room at the school. As I walked in there, I was met by the CEO and several other members, and one of the members said I had 13 minutes to make a decision of whether or not we were going to vent and burn because they were running out of daylight. 13 minutes. I was very overwhelmed with the approach to explaining. I was very overwhelmed by that approach to explaining that to me. Previous to that, they explained the vent and burn process to me. However, at this point, with being presented with a significant time constraint to make a decision, I asked them to explain the process again. In my opinion, there was some frustration on their part for having to do that. So, because somebody. Is it working? Okay, now it's working. I just lost my microphone. Hello. Okay. Back. So, somebody that has really no knowledge on this, they get frustrated because he asked for the process to be explained again after they give 13 minutes to make the decision. We're gonna debunk these temperature things here in a second. I reiterated to the fact that yes, she already explained it, but this is a very large decision that can affect my community and my men, and I need that explained once again, the whole process and the reasoning behind it. They did go through that explanation process with me again. Explained it very well. I think they understood why I wanted that. I stepped out of the room to process the information myself, and I discussed that with several of my chief officers, and went ahead and made a decision to go ahead and allow them to do that based on the information that we have received from them in reference to the temperature fluctuation going back and forth in the process that the product was going through. At one point, they said the temperature got as high as 139 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe that was based upon, as they were down there moving stuff and getting a better handle on the situation itself and getting temperature readings, they did find a small spot, which was described to me as a small spot fire underneath one of the particular cars. They did extinguish that, and they did go back in 30-minute increments from here and get readings. The readings did decrease, however, there was fluctuation. I insist that every reading that they got at the particular car, that somebody physically walked over and reported that information to us, and that did occur. They did come back over every time and give us that information, and there was a lot of fluctuation in the temperature. Now, I'm not sure what fluctuation temperature. But again, based on the information they gave me, I walked back in the room and discussed with them again the process, and if they truly felt that we were at that point, that was the only way to safety mitigate that. We agreed that it is so. I gave them the go-ahead to vent and burn. Okay, they said 13-minute time limit was because they didn't want to do it at night. They needed it to be daylight operation, and there was significant, in my opinion, a significant delay, and there was. It was supposed to, I believe that process was supposed to take place at 3 o'clock. The process didn't take, the actual vent and burn didn't take place until, I believe it was somewhere between 4:30 and 4:45. Remember, 13 minutes, he had to make the decision in 13 minutes, but hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, it was late. I don't have my timeline in front of me to give you the exact time, but I'm sure you have the exact time. The process did take place. I sat in the IMP's command bus, which was located outside the school. They did have an elevated external camera that was focused on area. We did watch it vent and burn from inside with the CEO of Norfolk, Mr. Shaw, and some other representatives from different agencies. I was assured by all parties that involved that it had went off appropriately and as it should, and I have no reason to believe that it did not. I have never been witness to or had anything to do with anything with that nature before. So, now, this is for car OCPX 80370. I think I should pull this up. Hold on, guys. All right, go away. Okay, 80370. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. was the lone vinyl chloride car down here. It was next to a hopper of PVC pellets that was burning. Obviously, it was smoking. The car that they had, this don't show it in this one. Oops. Okay, the car that they had a problem with was this GATX 95098. This is the car that he stated that it vented loudly and then didn't vent no more. So he made a decision. Okay, they made a decision. Okay, they're excellent. We'll get into the temperature things here in a second. That this car down here all by itself, okay, never even reached a critical temperature. He testified that he was focused on the car that vented for 70 minutes and then didn't vent no more. Didn't vent after that. So we're using this car as a reason to vent and burn, but that's not the car that. This is the car that he was worried about. So you know how it goes. Timeline. Okay, it made it up to 138. The temperature made it up in that rail car, okay? And when they finally vented and burned, it was down to 127, let's say, which is kind of interesting. So car one, we would be working from the back of the train forward. 120. Okay, this one's 7:21 a.m. This has to be the 4th. Car 2 was 115, and then you got 90, 63, 62. Okay, 26. This is before they did the vent and burn, okay? I want you to look at these temperatures. 127, okay? Car number 5. Now, this is car number 5 is what we were basing this vent and burn procedure on, okay? 4 through 1, 65, and 1 was 62, okay? Same thing, 10:30, 126, 65, 65, 65. 11:30, 126, 65, 65, 65. 9:40, 126, 65, 65, 65. Here's 10:30, 126, 65, 65. Now you tell me, we had temperature problems. 11:30, same, 126, 65. 12:30, same thing, 126, and then the rest were 65. There is 1:30. And then after 1:30, they don't have nothing else after that. 1:30. Okay, here's 2:30. Here's readings at 2:30. 126 and the rest were 65. So you used in your statement, you stated that the car you were worried about was the one that vented for 70 minutes and didn't vent after that, okay? Well, the reason probably why it didn't vent after that is probably because there wasn't enough pressure, okay? Now, the pressure relief devices, or blow-off valves, whatever you want to call them, were too 247 and a half. Yeah, PSIs. Okay, so it can be no more than a third of the burst pressure. So burst pressure of the tank is 750. We look at this. They could have got a temperature reading of 200. And you're not even pushing 300 psi's out of 300 psi's in the tank. So their reasoning behind it was just total crap. Temperature 93, the PSI's 60, okay? 60 to 85 degrees. 28.2 to 50.8, okay? And then you get the 130, 135, 138, look, 126.6, okay? And the pressure release devices were 247 and a half. And oxyvinyl was on site, and none of their information was relayed. Okay, I think it went from oxyvinyl. They were supposed to report to SPSI, and then they would report to Norfolk, and then they would report to Incident Command or the command center thing. Well, in between of either SPSI didn't say to Norfolk or Norfolk just didn't provide that information. The information got lost there, okay? And they were clearly saying if there was polymerization going on in this tank, okay, you're looking at temperatures of at least 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Is about what you're looking at, temperature wise. And their MSDS sheet. Now this should be something that, if you're a company that is, handling these hazmat situations, that you would think that would be something you would read, okay? It specifically says that stabilized vinyl chloride cannot polymerize without a initiator. Why it's stabilized is they take all the oxygen out. They take it down to 200 parts per million, and then I think they top it off with nitrogen at the very top of the tank. So there's no way for stabilized vinyl chloride to polymerize, and that is stated, and we'll get into this farther ahead. But it was stated in their post swabs of the tank, no polymerization, nothing, not even a trace of it. So you tell me if this really needed to happen. See, I like they gave the chief 13 minutes because of daylight, and I heard weather too. But yet they wait and don't do it till like an hour and a half later, hour and 45 minutes later. Very fishy. All right. Can you tell me who maintained the temperatures of the cars throughout the process? It was Norfolk Southern, sir. I believe it was. Those temperatures were retained by, and I may be wrong with the acronym here, but they're a mitigation company, SPSI, I believe. This is what they are. I believe it was that who was down there getting the readings, which it was, because we have the text messages that he stated that he had. It's also in the, we'll get to his testimony too, but he also states that. But we have readings starting from the 6th and 127, 126, and the PRDs didn't go off? Well, probably because at 127 degrees, there ain't enough pressure in the tank to cause them to go off. So, okay, you talked about the decision to vent and burn. Was it the ultimate decision? Was the ultimate decision your decision? Unfortunately, yes. They made it quite clear to me that I had to make that decision as the incident commander. Correct. And they explained to you when you said you were giving you information. They meaning the railroad. Correct. Correct. The railroad and their contractors. There you go. Like I said from the beginning, this town was played. You had the railroad and their contractors relaying this information and not relaying information from the chemical company, which we'll get into a little bit, because he did not even know there was even a representative from the chemical company there, which is, hiding more information. For Southern, their contractors, correct, sir. Did they tell us a little bit more about explained why it was necessary to do this? They explained that the product was going through polymerization, or they believed it was based on the temperature fluctuations. Now, did we not just look at the temperatures? What kind of fluctuations we got? We go from a high of 130 and then all the way down. It's nothing but a downtrend. The increases and decreases. Well, the temperatures readings that he showed, I didn't see no decreases. They pretty much were all the same. Let's see here. And they had laid out what I believe, if I recall correctly, that was 5 or 6 options from offloading to different stages offloading, getting down to this vent and burn. I don't remember exactly what all the 5 or 6 of these were. They said that they felt they were at their last option, which was to vent and burn, due to the situation that the particular rail car was in. The functionality of particular rail car was in the fall, and the functionality of safety devices associated with that rail car. Was the vent and burn option considered the safest options? Is that why it was selected? Correct, sir. It was explained to me at that point that was the safest option for everybody involved. When you arrived on scene, well, you were monitoring from 2 a.m. on, were the vinyl chloride cars venting through their pressure release devices at that time, or there were several cars identified to me that had the vinyl chloride that was going through the process that was venting. However, I cannot say one way or another if at any point, if the 2 full cars that they were concerned with, 2 full cars, not 5, 2 full. The one that they kept referencing has ever vented or were venting through that process. Do you know when the venting started? With that, no, this was on February 16th, so I will give some leeway. I will read this, but this was only 13 days after. So, what can you tell us about the reports, exposures of injuries? I'm happy to say, sir, that I am very proud of the fact that with in a neighborhood of 300 firemen on the ground working with the incident, we had 0 reported injuries, 0 fatalities. I have not heard any injuries related to it or have been notified. I did personally send 2 of my people here over the last several days for the ER for evaluation for flu-like symptoms, just as a precautionary measure. We did have 1 fireman early in the incident, and we sent for evaluation he was from Darlington Township in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. He was not feeling well during the evaluation period. We sent him to be evaluated, and it was determined he drank too many energy drinks and not enough water. How about the general public? I have not heard any solid reports of injuries. There are, with anything like this, there are rumors floating around town that people have rashes and some stuff like that, but I have not been officially notified of any injuries related to this incident. Now, like I said, I will, that was on the 16th. I know there's rumors going around. And, he said he wasn't officially notified. So, I mean, you guys make your own judgment on it. What was the critical temperature that you were looking for? And was that the final temperature reported on the car? And were all 5 cars monitored for temp? Let's see here. He said, to the best of my knowledge, they were monitoring all 5 cars for temp. The critical temperature reported to me by Norfolk Southern and their contract crews was of 150 degrees Fahrenheit. 150. Now, with 150 degrees Fahrenheit, there is not even enough to make the PRD go off. So I'd like to know how they got to that 150. I had made a decision in conjunction with other folks at the command post that if the temperature got to 146, based on what they were telling us, that we would just start that pullback process for our folks just as a safety precaution. But 150 was told to us it was an absolute for the people to shut down there and working and getting readings and stuff. And if it hit 150, they were pulling their people out. As far as the highest reading I was told, I believe the highest reading we were told was 141. Let's see here. It said regarding the 5 tanks that had the process of vent and burn, was there a concern over all 5 cars, or was it just a single car that had the highest temperature and the rest were done as a precautionary? Can you? It doesn't answer, but So the way it was explained to me is that one car for sure had the safety device was not functioning on, and potentially the second car that they believed still was full capacity was the biggest concerns. And that was the other cars were included in the vent and burn process as a safety precaution. It was explained to me that they can't, how those cars were, they can't single out one car safely vent and burn without the possibility of something happening to the other cars. And again, that 1 car, 2 car, 3 car, 5 car, there was a lot of discrepancy, in my opinion, about what they were going to do as far as vent and burn and as far as the vent and burn decision in that process. Different people had different things to say. We were only going to do 1. We were only going to do 2. We're going to do 5, and I don't feel that I comfortably had the answer to that 100% until we discussed the final decision of the vent and burn process. He was asked, was Oxy involved in providing the critical temperatures? Was who involved, sir? Oxy, the owner of the product. No, not to my knowledge, sir. Up until now, I did not know the owner of the product. Did not know who the owner of the product was, sir. So, Oxy Vinyl wasn't getting their information forwarded to, to command. Their temperature threshold was 150. Hang on, what did I do with that? Okay, we're looking at something. My dog is going to start barking now. 150. We're looking at pressure 164.71, 150.01. My dogs are barking. So, not even to PRD release pressure 150. I'd like to really know where they came up with this 150 number, because, I mean, clearly they have an email. I mean, it was emailed that somewhere in here. One of these, hold on, right here. This was emailed to them, and they gave it the temperature. And look, SPI provided the car pressure. SPSI, the range of shell temperatures. SPSI provided the shell temperature on this car on February 5th. The temperature increased from 135 by 2 to 3 Fahrenheit, then dropped and remained at 130 as of Monday morning. So they had emails being sent to them. And like I said, they from what I get out of this, and listening to Oxyvinyl, and I think Oxyvinyl was purposely left out of this because who would know their product more than the manufacturer that makes the product. And why weren't they involved in incident command? That was very weird. I don't know why they weren't pulled in it. And while I know the reason why they weren't pulled in is because if they were pulled in, their information of their own product that they know about would have negated them the reason to vent and burn or exploded things. They call it vent and burn, explode. They wouldn't be able to go through that process, because you can see now the exhibits laid out. We reached a temperature of 138, and it was down to 126 on Monday. So that means the temperature was trending down. But yet we still had to come in and make you, give you 13 minutes to make a decision, which was the 13 minutes to make the decision, I think, was basically for the fact that in 13 minutes, you really can't really do no research on this whole, situation and, VCM and all the other stuff. That's really not enough time to research it. And I think that's why it was pressed so hard, because, these things were so scary. But yeah, we can put guys on top to plant explosives, but these things were so scary. So interesting. They even give the train, the recording of the train, the little bit video they did provide. We'll get into that too on a different video. But I just wanted to cover. They used a car. Okay, a car. Okay, all the way down at the end of the railroad tracks. Okay, this was the last VC car. And why it probably was running a little hot is because it's right beside a freaking hopper of polyvinyl that obviously is smoldering, smoking. So it's awfully hot. So that's why that car probably had elevated temperatures. It had nothing to do with these cars, which, this is the one that he said he was worried about. No, this is the one. One of these. This is the one. Okay, 31 was the one. Because there's 4 in front and there was 1 in the back. 31 was the one that vented, as you can see now, it vented, loudly. Like, all these are venting right here, okay? They're obviously burning. And then it didn't vent after that, and he's using the temperature on a car that's not even nowhere near this pile up to warrant a vent and burn. I don't get it. But, you know, I guess you'll have that. All right, guys. I just wanted to go over the chief's statement, and like I said from the get go, he was played. This whole time was played. They were not given the full range of information. They weren't giving all the information. Okay, they were only given what they wanted them to have in order for them to make the decision of finally of vent and burning, because you know why? Because I haven't pulled up, but if you look at Norfolk Southern summary report for the 7th, first thing on there is lay new rails. That was one of their main focuses, was to lay new rails, get everything moved and cleaned up, and lay new rails. So, you know, you tell me if this really needed to happen or not. All right, guys, I'm ending up there on the Chiefs thing. I don't blame him for making the decision, because he wasn't given all the information. Information was withheld from him, and it was withheld with him on purpose. They only told him the scary stuff just so he would warrant the vent and burn. And you know, there's numerous exhibits stating that. This is just a few that I went through. So again, you know, Norfolk Southern played, but yet they're the hero. You know, they're going to make it right, and you know, you can have a brand new park, and you know, and we'll get into the whole wheel bearing issue here in the next few. This could have been totally prevented, and we wouldn't have to worry about none of this. If they had the right equipment besides hot bearing detectors on the railroad tracks. Hot bearing detectors are old technology. It's not accurate technology, as you can see. They need to go. You can put these spaces however far apart you want, but the technology is old. You can't. They really can't improve on this technology anymore. It's old. They need to go to the bearing acoustic detectors if they want to know the real state of the bearings. But if they do that, then there'd be more maintenance, because more cars would be logged, because this detects a bearing way sooner than a hot bearing detector does. So. All right, guys, I'm in it there. Like I said, I've been going through everything. I'm going to try to issue after issue tons of interviews. They were pretty interesting going through because of what we know now and what was told then. It's really weird. So, all right, guys, I'm in this. And we'll get started on the next thing.